Hi guys, welcome to another uh, hi guys, let me start over again. Welcome to another live stream for SUP. Hope you're enjoying these. I'm planning to do a lot more, answering questions regarding SUP, whitewater SUP, different equipment for whitewater SUP, also flatwater recreational and surfing. And I'll also touch on racing SUPs and designs and the different equipment you need. So, in this one, I just want to explain SUP rail shapes. So when you look at a SUP, the side of the board, the stand-up paddle board, is called the rail. So that's the edges of the board. So imagine taking a stand-up paddle board, slicing it through, let's say halfway, and looking at that shape head on. So that's what we're going to be looking at. I drew up a little diagram explaining different rail shapes. Have a look at this. Okay, so in this diagram that I drew up, I just want to show you what the different rail shapes are. So in the first instance, on the left, you will see the rail shape that's quite round, both edges, flat top, flat bottom, and it's got like a half circle round edges on the sides. So this is a common shape with all the inflatable stand-up paddle boards. What this does, or why it happens with the inflatables especially, is because of the drop stitch material in the center and inflating it to pressure, those rails can really only be one shape and it's round because there's no support for them, and the air pressure just pushes them out to be two half circles. Okay, the next rail shape is what we would find more commonly on hard surfboards. So stand-up paddle boards that are designed for surfing in the ocean, you would find the next shape. So you'll see these two tiny round corners at the bottom, then it tapers up, and a bigger radius at the top going onto the deck and the standing area. Okay, so on hardboards made from anything from carbon fiber or fiberglass or anything like that, where they normally shape a foam core and then wrap it in the skin, that would be the composite material. Shaping that foam blank, you've got a lot more precision and you can shape it basically in any shape you want. So the SUP designers and shapers would then generally tend on a high performance surf shape to have smaller corners at the bottom. Okay, so what this does on the high performance surf shapes is when you're leaning the SUP into a turn while surfing on the wave, that rail will give you traction. So you'll get a lot of turning coming from that rail. The smaller that radius or that corner is, the more turning capability you'll get, the harder that turn will be. Okay, so that's the theory behind these. If you've got a larger radius, like on the inflatable ones, as you edge the board, you'll get less turning. So why would you want a board with a bigger radius on the rails? Okay, it's more forgiving. So especially if you're paddling and on flat water and there's a bit of wind and there's some chop, or you're paddling against the wind, going in windy conditions or in ocean swells where there's especially chop from the side, these waves would tend to do less to the board if you've got bigger, rounder rails. The inflatable SUPs also tend to be thicker, which means that radius is really big. So looking at a board, if you see a big radius on the sides and a thicker board, that means more forgiving. But then the trade-off is when you're surfing on a wave in the ocean and you are getting that rail to dig into the wave to turn, you'll get less turning. So it won't feel as snappy in the turns like another board with a sharper corner at the bottom. Okay, so that rail will give you a lot more drive when turning. On the bigger radius, like the inflatable boards, you will find that most of your turning as you're turning on the wave when surfing is coming actually from the fins, or single or multiple fins. The fins is the only thing that's driving you into that turn. Not much turning is coming from the rail itself. Having said that, if you're going for an inflatable stand-up paddleboard that has less thickness, that radius becomes smaller and you'll get a little bit more turning. So that's one thing to consider. If you want something that's more forgiving, go for a thicker board with a bigger radius. If you want something that's got a little bit more snappy turns on a wave when surfing, go for a thinner board with a smaller radius. Okay. Now, a lot of the SUP designers, when they design SUPs, especially racing SUPs, they would use combinations of these. Okay. So, for instance, in the front part of a SUP designed for downwind or to be a bit more forgiving, you would find more bigger, rounder rails. That means when there's a side wind or side chop or side waves coming in, it's more forgiving on the nose and it's not pushing the nose or trying to flip the board. In whitewater, you will find that having that round profile as well, coming into the current and going out of the current, it's a lot more forgiving, where having sharper corners would just flip it on the rail so that it gives the water a place to push on. Okay. Then what you tend to find on high performance boards, downwind boards, things like that, as you go towards the rear, you'll find that this corner becomes smaller. The radius on the corner, in the corner, becomes smaller. So a sharper corner going towards the rear of the board, towards the tail. This means as you step back, if you're surfing on a wave, if you've caught a bump going downwind, you get more surfboard-like handling and you can edge it to control which way you're carving. Okay, so yeah, the combination of having a rounder rail at the front for a bit more forgiveness and not having the nose being pushed around in chop will help a lot. And then as you go to the rear of the board, having a sharper corner will mean that as the board plans and you're stepping back to get the nose up, you're on that sharper rail and you get better handling and performance. So that's the trade-offs. Personally, for whitewater, I paddle inflatable boards a lot, especially nice and thick 6-inch boards, which means they're really forgiving. Paddling down whitewater rivers, you really need that. So there's so many currents, you're always going in and out of currents, and that big rail helps so that you don't flip the board or the board throws you off. But having said that, if you're only doing ocean surfing and you're looking for something with a bit of performance, then for sure go for a hard board, smaller rails, especially at the back, a smaller corner radius on those rails, so that you get that carving capability of that board. Okay. If you've got any questions, I'll have a look at the. If you've got any questions, I'll have a look at the chat comments now. If you're watching this video after it's been live, I'm going to post it on YouTube as well as the normal video. So just below in the comments you can ask any questions and I will probably answer them in the next video.